Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I am Conrad, and this is the 45 where we take a look at the relegation battle, the bottom of the table. We have our last match in week 36, West Ham and Watford, and that is a critical match for those below them as well as for them themselves and potentially for Brighton right above them.
Yeah.
Looking at the table.
It's a relegation six-pointer, simply enough. Every team below them, Bournemouth and Aston Villa, the two teams who can get out of the relegation zone, are going to be hoping for probably a loss from one of the teams, so that way they have the best mathematical chance of
A draw doesn't
sneaking.
help any team.
Both Bournemouth and Villa are looking at 17th place as their route to staying in the Premier League. And you look at the matches they have remaining, all of them are almost have tough matches down the rest of the season. Bournemouth probably the easiest, but Southampton's been doing pretty well recently.
And you never know what Everton team is going to show up.
Exactly. They drew against Aston Villa, and Villa will be very disappointed that they couldn't come away with the 3 points after a late equalizer in that match. So it's the kind of thing where you got to win your two matches remaining if you can, and just hope things fall in place if you're Aston Villa and Bournemouth. For West Ham and Watford, if one of you guys win that match, you may be looking at safety after a lot of money invested.
Well, that Villa club, that Arsenal are playing really, really well, and then that matchup on relegation Sunday, in this case, against West Ham, is probably going to be the decider for them. West Ham have got United. United are a strange team. They have showed a lot of consistency in who they pick, but in terms of the results, it's a wild card.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's shaping up to be an interesting run-in. Final two matches post here. Just taking a look at West Ham and Watford from a spend perspective over the last 3 years. The net is West Ham outspending Watford by little under 100 million for one better league position
Every
each
year. It's funny, actually. They've always been one position better, including to this day. Still could end up being the same this year. And that just kind of shows, I think, the mismanagement of resources that West Ham have had, because they've invested a lot of money. They're a historic club, and they just haven't had performances. I mean, they've barely broken into the top half once in these past 3 years. Yeah. And so they'll be thinking, like, this has been a bad year, but if we get relegated now, we will only have ourselves to blame, because right now you have a match against two of your relegation rivals. It's a must-win, especially considering the amount of talent they have, the amount of money they've invested. To go down would be devastating for them.
And they have an experienced manager in David Moyes, but he's not relegation tested. He's never, in all his time at Everton and in his short time at United, he's never had to face this kind of pressure.
Yeah.
And granted, they're not in the zone, but they're not clear. They're 6 points from safety, just at that magical 40-point mark. But to be outspending Watford by 100 million over that 3-year period, and just to have one position better in the table.
Yeah. And another thing, the amount of talent they do have, teams are going to be looking. Can they swoop some players? Declan Rice probably the biggest one for either team, that they'll say maybe you're the kind of guy where if you're getting relegated, that $54 million price tag is probably getting lowered a little bit. So I think that there's a lot at stake for both of these clubs. It's a relegation six-pointer. And Watford have been here several times. And with Nigel Pearson, we talked about it before we started recording, him coming in rejuvenated their ability to score goals. They only had 9 goals in the first 17 matches. I just stole your stat.
But it's 11. They lost 17 matches in a row. Winless in 17. They had a couple of 0-0 draws, 2-2 draws here and there.
Until they beat Manchester United.
December 22nd in Nigel Pearson's third match.
Yeah, it kicked off from there. They ended up beating Liverpool 3-0. Now they're currently out of the zone. Both of these teams they're very similar as well since the restart, 2-1-3 as their record. So it's just kind of thing where, can you get a win? Can you get that almost 6-point, not exactly advantage against your rivals in one of the biggest matches of the season? 538 has a very close match. Obviously, just a 1% difference in terms of a win versus Watford and West Ham. A draw, also a very likely possibility. That's how I see it playing out. Not going to make anybody very particularly happy.
All 4 of those teams would be pissed off with that result.
Brighton might be a little happy, because that makes the odds that 3 teams below them manage to pass them very low. But these two teams both need those points very vitally.
I think this is where Nigel Pearson comes in, and David Moyes' lack of familiarity with the pressure in these types of games. He just wants to win. Nigel Pearson, it's not a stranger to relegation scraps, and I think he's going to get this Watford team up and over that hump.
Yeah, it's going to be close, and I think it's actually surprisingly one of the most interesting races in the Premier League right now, because the title was long and gone since December. the Champions League race kind of comes down to that Leicester United game on the final weekend, but this match could almost lock one team out of the race of relegation if Watford can do it.
And if Hammers lose, that Villa Hammers game, that's going to be the most intriguing game on Championship/relegation Sunday.
That and the United Leicester game, gotta have them both on at the same time to see how it's going to end up in the top 4 and in the bottom 4, kind of as well.
For sure, interesting. That does it for us for the relegation battle thus far. Please like, subscribe, give us some comments, follow us on the Twitter @the45. That's all for now. Thank you. Take care now.